My University 嘅咖喱英語教室第一集同大家見面啦。咁坐喺我身邊嘅呢位咧就係咖喱 Gary。
咖喱，我叫咩名咖喱啊，中文名係咖喱。My English name is Gary.
Okay.
This is Gary's English Learning Centre we're talking about. We're hoping to launch today.
Yeah. 咁啊好多謝阿咖喱啦，因為咧識得阿咖喱亦都係透過一位我哋嘅朋友啊 mutual friend Melville， 咁咧就能夠咧即係將我哋呢個兩位撮合埋一齊啦嚇，咁所以咧就見到阿咖喱咧佢個英文咧係相當之標準嘅，咁所以咧我就即係同佢商量咧就搞咗呢一個咖喱英語教室。So Gary, well since this is the first segment of our program, shall we explain to our audience why we set up this English Learning Center?
That's right, yeah, because I think I have a lot of experience teaching English in Hong Kong. I've been teaching English for 15 years in Hong Kong now, and as a kind of part-time net, I go to many different schools, and I got an estimate maybe 100 schools in Hong Kong by now, something like that, maybe 500 or 600 classes I've taught, and maybe 15,000 students by now. And so a lot of Hong Kong students impress me with their written and their reading of English. Their writing and reading of English is very impressive. Even the listening is quite good, but speaking it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice. It's really not easy. Really not easy.
Yeah. 咁啊，因為咧有咁多嘅英語嘅問題咧，咁所以我哋即係建立呢一個英語教室咧，希望係幫到大家去改善到或者將我哋嘅英文嘅水平咧就提升得更加高。What I was talking about was that when we set up this English Learning Center, our mission is to try to improve, try to make help the people to improve their English. Especially spoken English.
Especially spoken English. Yeah.
So, what were your opinion about English, the local Cantonese speakers, when they talk with you in English, or how would they impress you?
They are very impressive. I wish I could speak Cantonese as well as I speak English. I get embarrassed really. I've been living here almost 20 years now.
Really?
Yeah. 差唔多20年啦。差唔多20年。
That was before the handover.
Yeah, before 93. I came in 93.
Yeah.
And people tell me to man hok, and I really I really learn slowly.
Yeah.
But sure, in a day-to-day life learning kind of way.
Yeah.
I think 我廣東話係麻麻地
Okay. Yeah. But at least I understand your Cantonese here.
But really, it's very impressive the way Hong Kong people learn English. Really, I have much respect. Really.
But are there any cases that you felt that they could not make themselves understood?
Yeah, there are ways. One thing is mixing up the he and the she.
Yeah.
When I have a conversation with some of my Chinese friends, it gets very confusing. When they talk about he, they're really talking about a she.
Oh, okay.
And they're really talking about he. That's one thing,
Yeah.
And so there are certain little points that make a big difference.
Yeah.
We'd like to deal with that to begin with on this program. Really, I think.
Yeah. And that is one of the reasons why we set up this center. Yeah. And are there? I mean, in some occasions, will things like pronunciation of English letters, such as L, R, S, or V, that would annoy you?
Sometimes amuse me actually because there's like the L and the R mix up.
Yeah.
Now, for some people, football is a religion.
Yeah.
So they do pray football.
Yeah.
They do pray football.
Yeah.
But really, people play football.
Yeah.
But many Hong Kong people say, "I pray football."
Yeah.
That's one thing that I find quite funny.
Yeah, I will have to do a short bit of explanation in Cantonese about what just Gary talked about. 咁頭先阿咖喱就講到咧，即係有好多係講廣東話嘅朋友同佢講話，中意踢足球嘅時候咧，就嗰個 L 音就變咗 R 音。
Yep.
Pray football.
Pray football.
嗰個就變咗其實 PRAY。
Yep.
咁但係實際上咧，你應該 play football.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
So basically the problem in pronunciation get down to the very foundation of English phonetics.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll have to try to make it simple. Okay. Okay. The greatest problem of Cantonese speakers when they pronounce English letters are problems with letters such as R, L, V, and they pronounce it as alo, elo, we. Okay, I got this case which I remember quite clearly. It was about 20 years ago, when an American guy he went to Timatre and he was asking for direction, how to get to the central from Timatre, and the shop assistant told him that you take the MTR. So basically, there are two different problems here. The first thing is that this guy would never know what MTR means.
Yeah. He talk about the tube.
Yeah.
If he's from America, it'd be the tube.
Yeah, and the other problem is that that shop assistant should have said MTR instead of MTR.
MTR, yeah. MTR.
So would the MTR, the MTR create confusion for you?
Not for me, because I've been here so long,
Oh, you have been there so long.
I've been here so long.
So when people say "alo," you instantly know that.
I even say it myself sometimes because I've been here too long,
But I will have to make a short explanation about this. When I read the book about the Comprador, about how did they do business with the British about 150 years ago.
Right.
They did not speak English, so they will have to rely on book which help them to translate their words into English. And one chapters, when they transcribed the English letters, actually it was alo, elo, and F like that.
Right, really.
Yeah,
so that's where it comes from. That's so interesting because I found that wherever I go.
Oh, that will. I think they will be considered antiques right now because they are just so old, and the books were. I guess they were printed about 100 years, more than 100 years ago. So in that case, I know that why this problem persists for about more than a century.
Right.
Because
it still persists.
Because in Cantonese we don't end with our sound do not end with consonants.
No, that's another major problem,
Yeah, usually we end with vowels. I will have to explain it in Cantonese.通常喺廣東音嚟講咧，我哋嗰個音嘅結尾咧係唔會係字音，係會係響音。所以好多時我哋講 R 嘅時候咧，我哋會有個傾向咧，就會擺咗一個 O 一個響音喺尾，所以變咗 R L F S。
Maybe it's easier, I've thought, for Cantonese people to learn French. Because French you don't say the N letter, Of course it's d'accord.
Yeah.
But it's ACCORD, but you say d'accord.
Yeah.
You don't say the D, right? You don't say the N letter. So maybe it's easier to learn French.
Yeah. And the reason why I mentioned this case is that this has something to do with our mission. My advice when people learn English, my advice is that at least you have to make yourself understood.
Yeah.
When you speak English, you speak the kind of English that English speakers know what you are talking about. You don't speak English that English speakers do not have a clue what you are talking about.
No, it's not easy. It's really not easy speaking a foreign language,
Yeah.
And I know for myself, I know so much Cantonese in my head, but when I speak it, sometimes people don't understand, sometimes they do, and it's frustrating.
Yeah. So basically, our mission is about communication.
Yeah, really.
We will help people to communicate in English.
Yeah.
So going back to that mission, why would you think learning English right now is so important?
Well, it's a global world, as they say these days, isn't it? Really, and English and becoming, well, Putonghua as well, and Spanish, I suppose, are the major languages in the world. If you know those languages, then you won't starve, I think. You know?
Hopefully, hopefully,
you know.
hopefully you won't
But
starve.
if you don't, you know, you're at a big disadvantage, you know, in business and education, whatever you do.
Yeah.
I heard recently there's 1 billion people learning English in a year, you know. You know?
But my angle is that when it comes to the internet, most of the websites are in English.
Yeah.
So in case if your English is not that good, you will be having a bad time, a hard time on the internet.
Yeah, you're really at a disadvantage in this kind of international global world if you don't speak English.
Yeah. So basically, mission is to try to help Hong Kong people whose mother tongue is Cantonese to help them to learn English.
Yeah, to make life
and
easier.
to make them to help them to communicate with other parts of the world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
because
what they call the lingua franca,
Yeah.
which actually means the French language, actually, but it's the language of the world, you know?
yeah. But what does lingua franca mean?
It actually means the French language. Yeah. Actually, that's what it means, but literally. So it's a bit funny, really. But and the other meaning is really it's the language of the world. It's the number one language. It's the international language.
So after we will explain our mission, we shall give a bit of time to Gary, to explain what you are doing in Hong Kong.
Yeah, what am I doing being in Hong Kong?
Yeah.
I thought about I've been here for 20 years, and I thought, why did I come here? What drove me here? Well, a friend of mine was staying here, and I was on my way back from India. He said, come on a holiday, and for 6 weeks. I ended up staying here 20 years, but I thought, why did I leap at the chance, at the opportunity to come here? Then I thought back to my childhood and all the kind of images, and maybe we could go to the PowerPoint here.
And Gale has done a very detailed PowerPoint.
So growing up in England in the 60s and 70s, I'm just going to read this for a moment. For reasons of national security, we were told, we were shielded from Russia by the Iron Curtain, it was called, and from China by the Bamboo Curtain. No propaganda of these giant communist powers was allowed to pollute our spirits, as they said, or corrupt our minds. In fact, no real information as to the living conditions of the people there was allowed to reach us. We didn't know anything about what goes on here, really. We saw briefly the trial of the Gang of Four, the Chairman Mao swimming, and rivers of people on bicycles, and of course, panda diplomacy.
Sorry, I have to point out there is a typing mistake here. It should be MAO instead of MAU.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that will be consider a big respect to our Chairman Mao.
Sorry, Sorry.
So
but we were shielded from any real information.
Yeah.
And yet when I grew up, there were all kinds of things. Like there was a painting on my living room, and these paintings.
This one?
No, not this one. The next slide.
Yeah.
These paintings here. No real factual information, but we were treated to selected romanticized elements of Chinese culture. So even as a toddler and a child, every day in our living room, I saw this. He was called Trechikov. He was a Russian artist. This very famous painting, 1 million copies or something, of called Chinese Girl. And it was featured in television programs as well, famous television programs.
Oh, Alfie.
Alfie and Monty Python's Flying Circus and Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And
they got a lot of friends in Hong Kong, Monty Python.
Yeah, So this picture was placed everywhere, so you couldn't avoid it. This picture of this Chinese girl. We go to the next one. So for years, growing up as a toddler, I saw this picture staring at me, this beautiful Chinese girl, And then he also created more pictures here, I don't know if I saw these others, but maybe other people saw these other pictures by the same artist,
Oh yeah.
Oriental ladies.
Have they become your sexual fantasies?
I suppose it's subliminally, yeah. I mean, this one here, particularly the one.
Our English is getting more and more sophisticated.
Yeah, going back to the one before. This is the one that I saw.
Yeah.
As a toddler, growing up and 10, 11, 12 years old,
Yeah.
every day,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe so. And then also when I was growing up, toys were made in Hong Kong, not
Made in China.
Not made in China, no. On the bottom of every toy,
Yeah.
was made in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
You know, so this.
So you still have them not right now?
I don't know. I'm not really a collector, you know, but see, I don't even possible to zoom in. I've got the underneath here because it actually says "Made in Hong Kong." You know,
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
bottom
yeah,
of this
yeah,
one.
yeah.
This is Thunderbird 2.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and Batmobile. You know,
Yeah.
and Stingray, which you put in your bath.
Actually, I also got this one.
Yeah, you had,
When,
yeah.
when I was young.
They were cool, but made in Hong Kong. So again, in my head is Hong Kong, the Orient and Hong Kong. You know, and kung fu, of course. You know.
Yeah.
So especially if you were not a big guy, I wasn't a big guy. I was quite a short guy. So I would bluff that I was a black belt in karate, or I know kung fu. Watch out, guys! I know what kung fu. You know. So it was always worth a try if you were in a confrontation. So even in primary school, I knew one word of Cantonese. Ai-ya! You know. So thanks to Bruce Lee. Thank you, Bruce Lee.
He saved your life.
Yeah, he did. Maybe. Maybe he saved my life. And there was a song also by this guy Carl Douglas. It was everybody was kung fu fighting. Those cats were fast as lightning. Yeah, and that's how the song went. You know, that was a big hit. You know, in those days. You know, and so that led me, albeit briefly, owing to it was an old school style of teaching, really slow style, and I had unrealistic expectations about spiritual empowerment. You know, I've become.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
You did kung fu. You did Wing Chun in England.
Yeah, that was in the early 80s in the centre of London.
So we are Sieng Dai.
Sieng Dai, yeah.
Do you know what was Sieng Dai?
Brothers.
Yeah,
Kung
Fu brothers.
So Victor Chan, he was kind of a brother of Bruce Lee, actually. You know.
Yeah.
But so it was so slow, and I didn't think I'd just be punching the wall. You know, I didn't punch the wall for months and months. You know, I thought I'd be flying, you know, or something like that. You know, and it never happened. So I kind of I lost patience. You know.
Yeah.
Really, to be honest, you know, and.
Actually, if you pay me 1,000 Hong Kong dollar, I will teach you how to fly.
Heigong, is it?
Hengong.
Hengong, sorry,
Yeah.
Hengong. You see,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
My pronunciation, Hengong. Yeah. So that's what I thought I would get. You know, this was about the same time as the series called Kung Fu. I don't know if you saw it.
I
About
did.
a Shaolin
I did.
monk
Yeah.
with Kwai Chang Caine, played by
David
David
Carradine.
Carradine.
Yeah.
I used to watch that religiously. I always find a TV set because there was no video recorder in those days. Yeah, you had to watch it or you didn't watch it. You know, so I would always find a TV set. I think Tuesday at 7 or something. You know, and watch this. You know, and if we go to the next thing, here he is, and we got Kwai Chang Caine and Master Po, and he said, if you can take this grasshopper from my hand, you can leave the temple.
Yeah.
You know, you know.
Actually, nobody did.
No, nobody did. They ransacked the temple, didn't they? Yeah, actually, before he had a chance. You know. But there he is. In my mind, they're looking towards Hong Kong. You know, the Master Po and
That was too much for me.
But these images, you know, Eddie, these images burned in my mind, you know.
Yeah.
You know, really.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, China's really rich. It's a really rich culture, you know.
Yeah.
It's really rich, you know.
So we better go to the more
you know,
high sounding.
And of course, you would see like these Chinese paintings, you know, and the pavilion. You know.
Pavilions.
These are pavilions,
Yeah.
pavilions.
Teng, in Cantonese.
Teng, I never hear right? Teng. And the Ming vase, it was famous, you know, the Ming vases, and they were so valuable, you know.
Very elegant.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. So let's get to the philosopher.
Yeah, Confucius say, if we wanted to say impress people with saying something wise, we would say Confucius say, you know, or maybe it's a joke, or maybe seriously, you know. He was what we call a byword for wisdom. For wisdom, you know.
Okay.
So we can get. And then, of course, there's all kinds of other little things like that, like Mandarin ducks, you know, Mandarin oranges. This is a flan my mother used to make, and I used to make it as well, you know, delicious. And Chinese takeaway restaurants, we eat Chinese takeaway. When I came to Hong Kong, I found it's not really authentic Chinese food, it's English Chinese food, but, you know, still it's quite nice. Chicken chow mein and that kind of thing, you know, and chop suey and that kind of thing. Of course, the bamboo. And
that's classic. There's a
yeah,
classic.
the classic Susie Wong, you know.
Yeah.
Which I have.
Do you know where you could find Susie Wong in Hong Kong?
Because it's many years since I read the book, but I remember her catching the Star Ferry, So
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
first come here and you catch the Star
Well, there's
Ferry.
actually
Yeah.
a place where you can
Actually, really? Right.
where there's you can find the setting of this novel. It's just in Wan Chai. They
Right.
still have the hotel here there.
Really?
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
like to
Luk
find-
Wok.
I'd like to see that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. We go to the Luk Wok hotel after we finish the program. Okay.
Excellent, thanks. And music is very powerful. Music is very, very powerful, and it gets to you, doesn't it? Really, subliminally. And of course, there was, John Lennon with his Japanese wife. And when you're across the other side of the world in Europe, or actually, I come from London. Actually, then Japanese, Chinese, Hong Kong. There's a difference, but it's like people here. If it's French and English and American, like that kind of thing. And there were songs like China Girl by David Bowie,
Yeah.
My Little China Girl, and Hong Kong Garden Takeaway by Susie and the Banshees. I don't know if you know these songs, Eddie, And I think I'm turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese by the Vapor, And another famous one is
One Night in Bangkok. Yeah.
Makes the hard man humble, or something like that. And Kites. Da, 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 with a really Chinese melody,
Yeah.
And so these kind of things, all these.
So yeah.
So as I was saying here, maybe in the future show, I can show you some of, just for fun, what I've been up to in Hong Kong since I actually arrived 19 years ago.
So you see from the PowerPoint that Gale made, he is a big fan of Hong Kong and China's culture.
Really, yeah.
Yeah. So that is why he is in Hong Kong and why he is talking with you right now.
And I've learned a lot more. I've learned a lot more since I arrived here, of course,
Yeah.
since I've been here.
Yeah.
But that's the impression I had even before I got here, even as a child growing up in England.
Yeah.
So even with the bamboo curtain,
Yeah.
some things got through.
But one thing I will have to ask Gale is that, what about your accent? How would you describe that to our listeners?
My English accent.
Yeah.
I don't know what I sound like in Cantonese, but
What do you sound like in English?
in English. What I try to speak is like Middle English, what they call a Middle English. Maybe some people would call it a BBC accent, but a kind of Middle English, because I've been teaching, so I can speak Cockney, because I come from London, so I can speak like that. I can also speak like that because I grew up with like Cockney kids when I was good,
Yeah.
But if I spoke like that, you wouldn't, and if you followed me speaking like that, you wouldn't be speaking good English, and people wouldn't be able to understand you. So if everybody can aim to speak at the Middle English, then we can communicate, communicate better,
Yeah.
If I speak Australian English and say Monday, Tuesday,
Yeah.
then that's also creating some gap, some difference.
Yeah.
So especially when I'm teaching, I try, and recording as well, I speak a Middle English.
Yeah. That will be the easiest way
Yeah.
to communicate
Yeah.
with
clearest
way.
The clearest way properly, yeah.
Yeah. So what about your teaching experience? How do you? I mean, how many years have you been teaching English?
I said 15 years now in Hong Kong. 15 years.
To what people? To what?
Well, I teach in schools.
Yeah.
I've taught a little bit in tutorial schools, but I've taught from primary 1 to, well, there's no more secondary 7, but when there was secondary 7 to secondary 7, from band 1, band 2, band 3, and all over Hong Kong. When I catch the MTR or used to be called the KCR, I can go, I taught from schools at that station, not that station, that station, that station. I mean, Jiawai, everywhere in Hong Kong, And so I have a great experience. And one thing I would say, when it comes to speaking English, to do it as soon as you can, That's one reason why I teach a primary school, mostly. I do a bit at secondary school, but mostly primary school these days, because I think it's more effective and more important, If they can learn
At the earliest stage.
At the earliest stage,
Yeah.
In primary school,
Yeah.
then it's much easier,
Yeah.
And it's much easier to get a good habit
Yeah.
than to have a bad habit and then break that.
Yeah.
That's really difficult.
Because bad habits die hard.
They do, yeah. Yeah. Or we say in English, once were once mice and now rabbits.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's really difficult, you know.
So basically, learning English is a battle against bad habits. Yeah. So going back to that foundational problem, and shall we start at the begin at the beginning? It is they're all about the pronunciation of English letters. So the first question is that when we say English alphabets, are we really talking about English letters instead? I mean, the use of alphabet, the use of alphabet, the way that the Cantonese speakers, when they say alphabets, when you speak in English, do you mean English letters instead?
It's not quite that simple, really. I mean, I have got a poem that I selected, which proves how difficult it really is to speak, to teach phonics, really, you know.
Yeah.
And for example, like, so if we have the alphabet, it's G. You know, my name begins with G. Actually, my English name is
G.
Gary, right?
Yeah.
But we never say G usually. We say G. If the word begins, it's usually G.
Yeah.
Of course, if the word is in sausages, then it is G. So that's how difficult it is, you know.
So that is the most tricky part in English, because the sound do not correspond to the letters.
Well, they change. You know?
They change. Okay.
You know?
One classic example is Wednesday. When Chinese speakers look at the word, the first impression is that Wednesday instead of Wednesday.
Or Wednesday, really.
Yeah,
if you were pronouncing all the letters, it'd be W-E-D-N-E-S-D-A-Y.
Yeah.
So Wednesday.
Yeah.
If you were really pronouncing it phonetically, you know, Wednesday.
Yeah.
But it's actually, you forget the D.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
Wednesday, you know.
Yeah. And because of that, that have created a lot of problems for non-English speakers.
Actually, there are some patterns or rules to follow, but in a way it's like Chinese characters. You really have to learn word by word, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Word by word.
We will have to
anyway.
Focus on that in the future.
Yeah.
But this time we'll have to explore the fundamental problems in English pronunciation.
It's hard C and soft C, you know.
Yeah. And going back that problem of with the consonants, L, R, would you mind to do a few examples yourself, so that the listeners will get very clear idea about how to pronounce them?